Throughout PlayStation's history, there have been a lot of experimentation. Portable gaming, motion gaming, virtual reality, things like iToy, PlayStation Home. Whether they're ahead of the trend or late to it, PlayStation has always ventured into new territory to give players a new way to experience their games. One of these experiments was PlayLink. The concept was first introduced in 2017, but like many of Sony's other ventures, its lifespan was short. PlayLink had 14 games released across 2017 and 2018, but would fizzle out. No more games came out after that. Sony never spoke about PlayLink ever again, until they had to confirm that PlayLink was compatible on the PlayStation 5. PlayLink was all about an accessible, casual gaming experience. It's like Sony took the concept of the Jackbox Party Pack and greatly expanded on it. All anyone needed was a PlayStation 4, their PlayLink game of choice, and a mobile device. It's that simple, no controllers needed, though some games did have the option. And really, who doesn't have access to a mobile device of some kind? These days, you need a cell phone to survive. Anyone who wanted to play just needed to download the app associated with the game and they're good to go. Games were cheap to purchase, the apps were free, and you didn't have to spend extra money on something like Buzz controllers or SingStar microphones to play the game and get that full experience. This was perfect for parties, get-togethers, or any kind of social gathering. PlayLink is a brilliant concept, but as the years have gone by, we've seen its flaws. Apps have been removed, games have been delisted, and the worst is probably yet to come. But before we talk about the issues with PlayLink, let's take a look at its games. One of the biggest supporters of PlayLink was Wish Studios, and they had developed 3 games. That's You, Knowledge is Power, and its sequel, Knowledge is Power Decades. And there's a good chance you may have That's You and Knowledge is Power in your library. To promote PlayLink, Sony gave away those 2 games to PlayStation Plus users. That's You gave you the opportunity to know your friends and family better on a more personal level. With over 1,000 questions, players will not only be answering these, but taking selfies and doing drawing challenges. And if you want a little more fun, the game does have the option to turn on or off its more mature questions. Players could also write in their own questions on the app for play in-game, which was pretty cool. That's You is a decent idea, but not as good as it could be. But no social gathering will be complete without some kind of trivia game, and Knowledge is Power is that game. With a charismatic host, wacky contestants, a huge variety of trivia, and different sabotages, if you think that sounds a lot like Buzz, you're not alone. It's probably one of the biggest missed opportunities PlayStation had. The Buzz series died off on the PlayStation 3, and this could have been the perfect time to resurrect the series, even if it was short-lived. Regardless, Knowledge is Power is one of PlayLink's most solid standouts. Players vote on categories they're most interested in or have opportunities to veto to get what they want. All of this to ascend the pyramid of knowledge and become the winner. Player sabotage will have to do things like wiping away slime or breaking layers of ice to get to the answer on their mobile devices. Knowledge is Power is one of the rare PlayLink games to get a sequel. In 2018, we saw Knowledge is Power Decades, a much more improved and more enjoyable sequel. Animations are faster and less tedious. If you had to pick between the two, Decades is the game you should pick. While Knowledge is Power is best played in a group, I wish there was a quick trivia mode for single players because the game requires 2 or more players to play. If Buzz could do it, why not this? Unfortunately for Wish Studios, these 3 games would be the only games they ever fully developed and they closed down in 2019. Now if you loved Until Dawn, you will probably enjoy Hidden Agenda. And like a lot of what supermassive games have put out after Until Dawn, it's good, but not as good. Though what is good is that Hidden Agenda can be played alone or with other players. Characters can live or die, there are a number of different endings, dialogue choices, quicktime events, and investigative sections make up this game. And its story has plenty of twists to keep players wanting more. Include more players for its competitive mode and the game gets a bit more interesting. One player will get a hidden agenda, a secret objective they need to succeed in while creating conflict for the other players. In turn, those players need to prevent that objective from happening. But the game has flaws. Plot holes show up depending on the poor choices you make. If you play with others, multiplayer tends to be best with 3 or more people. If you're going to make story choices, one choice has to be more popular than the other. Something that doesn't work if it's only 2 players choosing opposing choices. There has to be a united agreement. Both Frantics and Chimparty are similar in their concept. Up to 4 players compete in a number of crazy minigames, and your phone acts as the controller, tilting, shaking, swiping, all that kind of stuff. launching chimps at targets in Chimparty, or competing in wacky races in Frantics. And like Knowledge is Power, Frantics has a wisecracking but cunning fox who will call one player with a secret mission to sabotage rivals, but will also help out the other players too. When playing Chimparty, players are able to customize their own chimp through earned outfits and accessories. And what's really unique is that the chimp you create on your phone can be used in someone else's game on a different PlayStation 4, if you just somehow happen to have a friend who loves playing Chimparty. Just Deal With It and Word Hunters are two PlayLink games published by Wired Productions, and both of their apps have since been delisted, at least on iOS. It seems back in 2020, people were having a difficult time finding the Just Deal With It app. Despite this, both games are still being sold on the PlayStation Store. Both turn these average games into competitive party games. Just Deal With It reinvents 5 classic card games. Players can team up or attack one another and sabotage the competition. Word Hunters takes players across the globe in a variety of 15 challenging word games to win rounds, claim letters, and take down opponents. Melbits World is a cooperative puzzle platformer where players guide digital creatures through various levels full of dangerous traps and evil enemies. Also, they can gather seeds and spread good vibes across the internet. And now we get to the optional PlayLink games. These games were playable with their respective PlayLink app, or they could be played with a controller. Or in SingStar's case, a microphone. Now, SingStar was doing the whole PlayLink idea before PlayLink was ever a thing. One of the biggest features about SingStar coming to the PlayStation 4 was the inclusion of a downloadable app that turned your phone into a compatible microphone. When PlayLink was revealed, one of the games coming with it was SingStar Celebration. This would be the first physical release of SingStar on the PlayStation 4 in North America, and sadly the last release for the series ever. And if you want to know more about the rise and fall of SingStar, you should check out this video. But with Celebration, the SingStar app was rebranded to include the PlayLink logo, and that's about it. Ultimately, the app was more accessible for players to play SingStar, but also a cheaper way for Sony to not have to produce a ton of microphones. Though personally, I always recommend using a SingStar microphone than the app. The app works, but it definitely isn't the same experience. Planet of the Apes: Last Frontier is set between the dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes films. Much like Hidden Agenda, choices made affect the outcome of the story. But unlike Hidden Agenda, Last Frontier is a bland story to get into. You'll experience the story from the perspective of both the humans and the apes, the struggles each clan has with not only each other, but within themselves. Last Frontier is maybe worth a playthrough. Ultimately, the game does nothing for the overall franchise and is highly forgettable. Ubisoft jumped in on PlayLink with Uno and Battleship. Both games were previously released, but the app allowed for players to have their own screen online and offline, and was a great way to bring people together in one room as if they were playing the actual physical games. Though early in 2023, users found the Uno app removed for download, and those who still had the app weren't able to use it because of an update for the game. Even Ubisoft confirmed this in a response to a tweet that January. Unlike Uno, the Battleship PlayLink app is still available. Ticket to Ride is yet another game that had its PlayLink app delisted. Thankfully, you don't need the app to fully play the game, so you'll always be able to strategize and use different tactics to link cities across the world through railways. As we've seen, PlayLink has some giant issues. Majority of these games require the app to play and cannot be played with a controller. And because an app's required, what happens when it's delisted or needs to be updated because technology advances and software updates make older apps outdated? Sony isn't going to update these apps. They've moved on from PlayLink, and then you're stuck with a copy of the game that has become useless and unplayable. And that's not even the worst of it. The biggest blow to PlayLink came later in 2023. Hidden Agenda, That's You, Knowledge is Power Decades, Chimparty, and Frantics were all delisted from the PlayStation Store. They are available physically, but that's going to depend on the region you live in. North America did get Hidden Agenda, Knowledge is Power, and That's You, but if you want to get Knowledge is Power Decades, Frantics, or Chimparty, you're going to have to import them. If you're interested in any of these PlayLink games, download the apps you can and start playing them now, because in a year or so, you might not be able to. PlayLink was an interesting concept. These games were cheap to purchase, there was a decent variety to them, some were better than others, and if you have the friends or family available to play, PlayLink can result in a great time. But the concept was one that Sony needed to educate people on. People need that visual of how PlayLink works, and while Sony succeeded, for a lot of people it's not worth the hassle. But PlayLink is also heavily flawed. Games have been delisted and their physical counterparts are scattered in different regions. Some games don't have the app required anymore, and who knows about the future of those still available. PlayLink was a missed opportunity to reintroduce dead franchises, but also a very Sony thing to do. It's something unique, it stands out, but also very niche, and support for it was soon dropped. Do you remember PlayLink? What were your favorite PlayLink games? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe for future content. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.